The third seminar deals with the potential of collective intelligence. Once you use complex adaptive thinking, we already mentioned artificial neural networks, agent-based simulations. We didn't mention yet artificial life simulations. If you study how neural networks, agent-based simulations, and artificial life simulations work, you learn a lot about how collective intelligence informs emerging systems. And I already mentioned the soccer example. The soccer example is nothing more than an interpretation of the rules that we found into artificial life research. Another one that I like to use is, for instance, a jazz combo or a flamenco group. Just like with the soccer team, you need intelligent enough, hence good enough musicians that are willing to interact, that are autonomous. Nobody is going to tell them what they have to do. They all have to be at the same spot, in a pub, in a theater, whatever. Thirdly, they have to share the same purpose, and that purpose is often give themselves and you, the public, a joyful evening. And then they agree on one thing, which is the set of chords within which they play. And then somebody starts, and suddenly out of nothing emerges the sensation that you get either by a good jazz performance or by a good flamenco performance. There are many examples of these kind of artificial life simulations. The rules that manage those simulations, I already mentioned them, but that are the rules for collective intelligence to work. If you really would like in your team, in your organization, to use the collective intelligence of the team members, you'll have to ask a few questions, the questions that you would ask with the soccer game. One, are all my players good enough? Not necessarily excellent, but good enough. That means, are they technically good enough? Do they want to cooperate? Are they autonomous enough? If not, you have a problem. Secondly, is the playing field correctly defined? Now with soccer, that's an easy one. In the plan that you're making, in the project that you're trying to resolve, what is really the playing field? What are you trying to resolve? What is the context of the problem on which you work? Next, do all the players share the same goal? Are they in for the same results, for the same purpose, with the same energy? Are they committed? Lastly, do you agree about a minimum set of interaction rules? You have once a week a coordination meeting. You once a week brief your colleagues about what you're going to do. At the end of the week, you look back and you say what you have been able to do, whatever. A minimum set of interaction rules in order to make the team work. And then the last open question is, what's the role of the coach, the trainer, the conductor of the orchestra? It's not to control, but it's create the conditions and motivate the players to give the best of themselves. What you use in order to drive such a process of collective intelligence are values. Values become the driver of your wicked problem innovation. And values and purpose are the lighthouse of what you're going to do. This is what you strive for. This is where you would like to go to. The outcome of this process is one of personal transformation, and you work particularly on that in your personal transformation journey. That is the purpose, that is the outcome, since that is what is going to allow you to repeat what you've done right now and what you've learned right now. The approach you use is basically one of design thinking. The viewpoint is one of the system. Things do not exist in isolation. Things do not exist in a silo. Problem areas are areas that are highly interconnected with everybody and everything. So your viewpoint is one of systems thinking. And then you can go through a number of systems tools if you would like to. We are not going to discuss all of them in your resources, you will find some documents that describe, for instance, soft systems methodology. If you would like to use it, you can find the approach there. You can draw systemic pictures using causal loop diagrams. There are also in your resources documents that describe that. That is what we are going to do as an assignment. Another tool is eco-designing. The same in your resources, eco-designing and described. And eventually, you could try in this phase of framing, identifying, rather than framing and identifying it by writing it down, you could, for instance, visualize it in order to make it easier to communicate. What we are going to do in this assignment is try to make now, out of your adapted and enriched item 3 that you made after your session 2, we're going to make a causal loop diagram, which is nothing more than which variable has an influence on which other variable. So you start by taking all those items that you had in your item 3 and you try to connect them with each other. And maybe you start in the bottom, it often makes it easier. It is not a must. And you get to this kind of causal loop diagrams. Now, if you develop them far enough, if you can somewhat quantify them, you could then move on. This is not the purpose of what we do here. You could then move on to system simulations and really build different scenarios and see sensitivities in your model. Your third assignment, the assignment of this session, is, as I said, to build a kind of a causal loop diagram. And I suggest you to start by combining the items at the bottom of the different trees that you have and see which one you can connect with which. And you might then restructure completely your item 3 into a causal loop, into an influence diagram, right? So you're producing what I like to call a systems map. So you're no longer thinking about items, but you're thinking about the whole context and how all those items fit together into one contextual map. The golden part of the assignment, which is the personal transformation one, for which I refer to the webinar and to the roadbook, you make a few small influence diagrams on your personal transformation journey as it was described in that webinar.